Welcome today to Money and Happiness. This is the 13th webinar in our Get Savvy, Grow Your Green Stuff webinar series for the 2024-2025 academic year. So we appreciate you being here. If you've been on one of our previous Get Savvy, Grow Your Green Stuff webinars this year or previous years, you might know that personal finance is complicated, and so is this topic. So we might go a little bit over. We're going to try to make sure that we are done within the hour, but if we aren't, don't fret. We are recording this so that you can view it later. My name is Andrea Pellegrini, and I run the Student Money Management Center for the entire University of Illinois system out of University Bursar. And I am joined today by my colleague Donovan, who's really the star of the show, and I'm just here for the ride. So Donovan, do you want to introduce yourself to everyone that is on?
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everybody. Let me just start by saying that it's really a pleasure to be with you. I'm a financial planner by trade and was very blessed, really fortunate about 4 years ago to also begin teaching full time at the University of Illinois. And in addition to my role as a full-time instructor, I'm also a PhD student at Kansas State University, where I research about money and happiness, of all things. So I'm glad that you're here today. Thank you for being with us, and I'm excited for our conversation.
Thank you, Donovan. We are very blessed to have Donovan as our subject matter expert today. And I've worked with him on a lot of different projects, so I'm excited we get another project to work together on. So collectively, the Get Savvy, Grow Your Green Stuff webinar team represents organizations across the state of Illinois, which rest on the ancestral lands of multiple Native nations, including the Peoria, Kaskaskia, Piankashaw, Wea, Miami, Mascoutin, Ottawa, Sauk, Meskwaki, Kickapoo, Potawatomi, Ojibwe, and Chickasaw nations. And we have a responsibility to acknowledge these nations and work with them towards a more vibrant and inclusive society. So again, if you have been here before, you know we like to use different functional features of Zoom, and one of those features is the polling. So I'm going to launch this demographics kind of poll here. You do not have to answer if you do not want to, but it does help us kind of understand who's joining us today, and we can modify some of our examples, or Donovan might be able to modify some of his examples to better meet your needs. So there's age range, whether you're a student or full-time employee, or maybe you're both. Gender and race and ethnicity on here. But again, don't feel obligated if you don't feel comfortable sharing. All right. It looks like we're almost at half of everyone has responded, but it looks like we have people from the 25 to 34 age range, and 45 to 54, and 55 to 74. And then we have lots of students and full-time employees, but we also have some retired folks and some part-time employees. We have more women than men today. And we have a bit of a diverse group for race and ethnicity. So thank you for participating. I am going to end the poll and just share very quickly so you can see who's joining us. So we have a little bit older age range than we typically do, but that is great. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing. If you still see the box, you can just exit out of it, and the next poll we have should still pop up when I launch it. So some of the learning objectives that Donovan is mainly going to go over today is we're going to define some key concepts related to happiness. We're going to describe some of the major theories of happiness. We'll explore different perspectives on the relationship between money and happiness. It's not as clear cut as you might think. And we're also going to highlight research on whether money can buy happiness and explore the role of what we know in the literature is subjective well-being as happiness in financial decision making and goal setting, which is really important for long-term financial planning. We're also going to identify some strategies to enhance happiness in the context of financial planning and management and spending. And we're also going to talk about some of the ancient wisdom and happiness equations that are out there. And hopefully by the end of this, you'll be able to develop a personal action plan for enhancing happiness based on your own context. So I'm going to hand it over to Donovan to kind of talk more about exploring the history and philosophy of happiness.
Wonderful. Again, thank you all for being here. I know this is over lunch, and there's a lot of things you could do over your lunch break, including eat your lunch. But I'm excited that you guys decided to come join us today. As long as humans have been around, we've been pondering about and wondering about happiness and how to be happy. And indeed, we've also wondered, well, what the heck is happiness to begin with? And we're going to give you guys an opportunity to go ahead and drop in the chat. What are your thoughts on what happiness is? Go ahead and take a moment. We'd love to get a few thoughts in there. If you were to define happiness, if you were to explain happiness to somebody else, what would you say? Now, Andrea, maybe as we're doing that, I'm putting you on the spot a little bit here, but how would you define happiness?
I think that's an excellent question. I think it's also difficult. We decided to start on hard mode with the
Yes, we
chat
did.
questions today with what is happiness. So I think it would really depend on the context of the person I was talking to modify how I would define it. But it is a feeling, right? In essence, it's a feeling. Um, we tend to think of it as positive or good,
Mm,
right?
hmm
And then like what are the boundaries of happiness? Is it what's the difference between joy and happiness? Some people kind of define that differently as well. And I'm sure different cultures have different terms that are adjacent to or reference happiness in a different conceptual context. But you've done all the research. What do you think?
Well, they absolutely do, Andrea. You bring up a lot of good points. And the reality is that it is very difficult to define happiness. Now, Sherry, thank you so much. A state of happiness and contentment. I love it. Chris says happiness is a spectrum with the sweet spot being in the middle. So again, while it is difficult, and I gotta say, thank you guys so much for diving in here with your perspectives. I love it. I love it. Well, the reality is that ideas around happiness have changed throughout history. In fact, if we look at kind of the root word of happiness in certain language, turns out that it's a synonym for luck and fortune in many cultures. You can think of Sisyphus rolling his rock up the hill only to have it roll back again. And happiness early on in early human history was thought of in a lot of cultures as something you don't have a lot of control over. It's either something that you have, you're lucky, you got lucky, you had good fortune, or you didn't and you struggled. Now, the Greek Hellenistic philosophers had some other ways of conceptualizing happiness. Democritus said that happiness is, it's actually not on your external circumstances, but it's on your cast of mind. And so you actually do have the ability through the way you think and the way you perceive the world, even if your current external circumstances aren't the best, there's still a path forward to happiness. It's not just the external circumstances that you find yourself in. Epicurus said, look, we can seek out pleasure and we can avoid pain. Seneca and Aristotle said, well, okay, but living a virtuous life is still really important. And Aristotle also acknowledged that those outside factors they do play a role, but a virtuous life can lead to happiness. Now, one of the things that I appreciate from the perspectives that everybody's sharing from Andrew to our participants is that there are varying ways that we're coming to this definition of happiness. And one of the things that we can think about, and this is one of the things that we find in the literature, is that happiness can be defined as hedonism, so seeking after pleasure, avoiding pain, kind of what Epicurus was getting after, or eudaimonia, and this is more in line with Seneca and Aristotle, the belief that, maybe happiness is less about experiencing happy emotions all the time, and maybe it's more about living, we might say, quote, the good life. Now, I think to conceptualize that, what were we talking about? A good life. How can you have the good life without experiencing happy emotions? Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're not going to ever experience happy emotions. But there are probably some individuals on this call who are parents who have been parents. And you know better than anyone else that raising a child is not always fun. I've got four kids myself, and I know that there are the highest highs and the lowest lows. But very few people would say, hey, you know, this raising a kid thing is so hard. I just want to get rid of my kid, right? Very few people would go out and they do that. They'd say, I'm still living a good life, but maybe my emotions, maybe they're not always, let's say, the most positive emotions out there. Now, kind of fast forwarding closer to our modern era, embedded within our founding documents and here in the United States, is this quote, which will resonate and sound very familiar to many of you from the Declaration of Independence, saying that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, isn't that very American of us to think about happiness as something that we can pursue? It's kind of like the American dream. You can go after what you want, you can build something big, you can achieve your desires. And yes, you can pursue happiness. And it's so foundational kind of to the American ethos that it's considered this unalienable right that's been endowed from on high. Now, not everybody really agrees with that perspective. Now, we have a gentleman here named Viktor Frankl. Someone drop in the chat for me if you can remember a famous book that Viktor Frankl wrote many, many years ago. And this is what he said. He said, to the European, it is a characteristic of the American culture that again and again, one is commanded and ordered to be happy. There you go, Sherry. Very good. Man's Search for Meaning. That's absolutely right. Man's Search for Meaning. So this quote comes from Man's Search for Meaning. And if I finish it, one is commanded in order to be happy, but happiness cannot be pursued, it must ensue. So within Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, he actually, the first portion of it is about his horrific experience in a concentration camp. He's a Holocaust survivor. And as I think about people who might have a reasonable perspective on both misery as well as happiness, his name certainly comes to mind as someone whose words I think I would trust. The interesting thing about his book is the first portion is focused on his experience in the concentration camp, but the other portion is focused on a method, a therapeutic method that he had developed called logotherapy. And the essence of logotherapy is that people can improve their well-being by finding and establishing meaning in their lives. So, from Viktor Frankl's perspective, he would argue that happiness is something that is going to ensue once you've identified meaning in your life. Now, the interesting thing about that, there's a thinker, I would say, I would even maybe describe him as a modern philosopher on happiness by the name of Arthur Brooks. We're actually going to return to some of his thinking here at the end of our presentation, too. But his thinking is in alignment with Viktor Frankl, in that, happiness isn't something so much that we force ourselves into obtaining, but is the result of what he would describe as these macronutrients. So think about your health, right? In order to have a healthy body, you need certain nutrients. Your body needs fats, your body needs proteins, it needs vitamins, and it needs minerals. All of these things are important in order for your body to function well. And Arthur Brooks approaches happiness in much the same way. In order to achieve happiness, we need these macronutrients of enjoyment and satisfaction, as well as meaning and purpose. Well, how do we achieve and receive enjoyment? Well, it's a combination of doing things that we love with people and also making memories. Now, there's benefits to the memories, of course, in the future looking back on those memories. But I'd also say when you have something planned ahead that you're looking forward to, and you're kind of you're looking forward to savoring this experience, that can also result in happiness. There's also satisfaction. So maybe you've experienced this where there was a goal that you had. Maybe it was a job that you obtained. Maybe you ran a marathon or you did a Spartan race or a Tough Mudder or something else that you're really passionate about. Maybe it was a mastering a musical instrument. And then lastly, meaning and purpose. Again, this ties in with Viktor Frankl's ideas on meaning. We need meaning. We need to have a sense of community, an identification with something valuable that gives our lives meaning and purpose. And I think there are a number of ways that we can strengthen those connections, strengthen that meaning, which we'll return to a little bit later on in our conversation. Now we want to invite some interaction and some engagement with you guys again. So there's a really cool report that comes out every year called the World Happiness Report. And every year, among other things, so it's always looking at, how happy people are worldwide. What trends are we seeing? What can people do to improve their happiness and well-being? We're curious about where you think the US ranks on the 2025 World Happiness Report. In particular, we're also curious about your perspective on our neighbors and their rankings. So we've got our friends up in Canada and Mexico. Where do you think they rank? Now, maybe you're coming into this conversation, you have some background here, but we'll give you guys a couple of moments here to put your responses in there. Really looking forward to seeing uh, your guesses, or again, if you've looked at the survey already, maybe you already know the answer to this one.
So I did launch the poll already, so hopefully everyone can see it. Um, but it looks like we're kind of mixed in our responses as to where the United States ranks in relation to our neighbors, Canada and Mexico. I don't know if you can see the responses, Donovan, as a co-host.
I'm
Um,
not able to see the responses yet.
okay.
I can see that people have answered, but that I can't see yet where the answers are coming in.
It's about 50% of you have responded, so we'll try to get that up a little bit further if you want to make sure to submit after you make your selections. I think sometimes we forget to do that and then we're just sitting here waiting, right? But so far there's about half of people look like they've ranked United States in the middle and uh half have ranked them lower. Canada looks like it's higher for most people, but a couple people have ranked them in the middle. And Mexico, it looks like 44% has responded as higher, and 44% say in the middle, and 11% say lower. So we will go ahead and end the poll and share the results
I love it.
so we can discuss them. All right, can you
Love it.
see them now?
We do. We do.
Okay, excellent. So talk us through it.
Well, let's start off just with a framework for understanding how these questions are being framed. And so, when the World Happiness Report is going out, and actually, it's Gallup is actually, so there's a partnership between Gallup and the World Happiness Report. When Gallup is surveying people, they're using a survey uh, scale known as Cantrell's ladder. Now, Andrea's worked her magic and put a beautiful ladder there for you to look at. But the question itself goes something like this. It says, please imagine a ladder with steps numbered from 0 at the bottom to 10 at the top. The top of the ladder represents the best possible life for you, and the bottom of the ladder represents the worst possible life for you. On which scale of the ladder would you say you personally feel you stand at this time? Now, some of you, as you're kind of looking at that question, you might be like, well, gosh, that doesn't really sound like happiness to me, right? If we're defining happiness from from the standpoint of positive emotions and positive feelings, I mean, this Cantrell's ladder sounds a little bit more like life satisfaction. So that is, I think, an important framework. If we're talking about happiness, well, how are we defining it from the beginning? In the case for the World Happiness Report, we're really looking at what we might describe as more of a life satisfaction measure. But if we look at the 10 happiest countries plus Canada and the United States, here you can see on your screen now, interestingly enough, Finland, I believe Finland has been ranked as the happiest country for something like 5 some odd years. But the trend is definitely Northern European countries, particularly Scandinavian countries, tend to rank themselves quite high when it comes to a life satisfaction perspective. Interestingly enough, Mexico This year was also ranked number 10, Canada number 18, and the United States trailing there at number 24. And so, interesting perspective to kind of look at where we sit in relation to our friends to the north and to the south, but also to kind of get a more global perspective of what are the countries that rank themselves as most happy. I'd encourage you to check out the World Happiness Report. It goes into a lot more detail about happiness generally, but also the differences between these countries. Now, I think Andrea mentioned a little bit earlier on in our conversation that in the research literature, happiness is referred to as subjective well-being. Why subjective well-being? Well, um, you might imagine that people with the very same objective circumstances still might rank their happiness in different ways. In this way, happiness in the research literature is referred to as subjective well-being. Financial well-being, of course, is an important subdomain of subjective well-being. Your financial situation and your financial well-being is going to impact your overall subjective well-being or your overall happiness. And so I'm going to turn the time over to Andrea, who's going to provide us with a little bit more guidance around financial planning. Andrea, I'm kicking it to you.
Thank you, Donovan. So if you've been on our webinars before, we talk about financial well-being a lot. And over the years, the way that we define it has kind of tightened up. It's got a little more clear, but there's still a range of experiences. And we're talking about a lot of research today, which tends to focus on the average and what that is, and less on the broad spectrum of human experiences. So we want to acknowledge that life satisfaction and financial well-being will not look or be the same for you as it is for everyone else. But just to clarify, financial well-being compared to like life satisfaction or subjective well-being, the CFPB has done a lot of research and is focused on defining and describing financial well-being. And what they have found is that financial well-being is obviously a highly personal state, and it's not necessarily described by someone's net worth, like how much they own, or by any objective financial measure like a credit score. So you got to think, what does financial well-being mean to you or to me? It'll be unique for each of us. But there is a scale that they created after synthesizing all this different research to try to explain different elements of financial being. There are four main elements. You have your present and future perspectives, and then you have security and freedom of choice. So someone that is high in financial well-being, or will score high on the scale, tends to have control over your day-to-day and month-to-month finances, your present security, but also the capacity to absorb financial shock, which could be a subjective measure in how you identify what a financial shock is. But it's the ability to kind of prepare for the future, be prepared, feel prepared for the future. And then there's also the financial freedom to make choices to enjoy life, that freedom of choice, which can be modulated based on where you are regionally, like physically, what your access to financial resources are in your present day, as well as being on track to meet your future financial goals. And that has to do with kind of the ecosystem that you are functioning in. So, the National Endowment for Financial Education has done a lot of research on not just financial well-being, but all these contributing factors to financial well-being. So you need to have knowledge, right? So a lot of you are in this financial education webinar to try to enhance your knowledge, but there's also access. So your access to financial services, investment products, all these other things that can limit what your financial well-being opportunities are. You also have other influencing behaviors like your financial actions and outcomes that influence your well-being. There might be outside unexpected events, like we're in tornado season right now. So a tornado taking out your garage could put you back from a financial well-being perspective, especially if you don't have insurance, you're not self-insured, or whatever the case might be. But there are social supports and materials that can help you with that. And then we have values. Um, and they are guided by our background and our culture and the society that we live in, and those also contribute to our financial well-being. So it's really complicated. That's why we like to emphasize it. But I think I'm going to hand it over back to Donovan to talk about the theories related specifically to subjective well-being and happiness.
Well, this wouldn't be a webinar about research into happiness if we didn't bring in at least one theory. Now, there's a number of different theories related to happiness, but the most common and probably the most well-known one is known as hedonic adaptation theory. Now, go ahead and just drop in the chat for me, yes or no, have you heard of hedonic adaptation, or sometimes as it's known in kind of popular literature, the hedonic treadmill? So just a yes or no in there if you guys have heard of it. As you guys are doing that, I want to tell you a story by Leo Tolstoy. I'm not going to give you the full version. I think we'll be dropping in the chat a link to this story called How Much Land Does a Man Need? And I think that this story, stories are fun, theories are boring. So we're going to begin with the story and then we'll get into the theory itself. So, How Much Land Does a Man Need follows a gentleman named Pahom, who is a peasant, and he gets the idea in his head that owning more land is going to make him happy. And he's actually successful. He achieves greater status, he gets more land, but there's this repetitive process where once he does that, he becomes unsatisfied and he moves the goalpost and says, you know what, I need more land. He gets more land. And then he proceeds to, again, kind of get down about it and say, you know, I want some more land. Now, he's given a once in a lifetime opportunity, we might say, to claim as much land as he wants. All he has to do is outline the land with his spade in a single day. So he just has to go all the way around. As much land as he's able to encircle, that land is going to be given to him. Now, if you've ever read a short story before, you know that short stories don't have happy endings. They always have a strong moral punch that says, and here's why you don't do that. And so what ends up happening is that Pahom, in attempting to get as much land as he possibly can in a single day, he's running as fast as he can in as big an arc as he can. And he eventually works himself to death. He ends up dying right before he's able to claim all of this land. Right? That's not surprising from a short story perspective. We get it, right? Short stories are driving home a message. So I've given you the Cliff Notes version of it. But I'd ask you again, if you don't mind responding in the chat for me, what do you think the danger is that Leo Tolstoy is warning against? And as you guys are putting in your ideas in the chat message, let me tell you a little bit about classical hedonic adaptation theory. Carol, I love it. Nice idea there. So again, let me put a framework around hedonic adaptation theory, and we'll come back to some of the ideas that you guys bring up. So in its essence, hedonic adaptation theory suggests that good things and bad things happen in our lives. Now, we respond emotionally to those good things, and we respond emotionally to those bad things. Hedonic adaptation theory stipulates that we experience positive or negative emotions depending on those perceived good or bad things that happened, but that eventually we revert back to a neutral set point. So there's this baseline emotional state, and we're going to revert back to it. Now, research has suggested it's not necessarily neutral; it's actually slightly positive. Um, but this is essentially what hedonic adaptation theory suggests. Now, I want to be upfront with you. There are detractors. There are people that say, you know, this is not always the case. This is not always how things work. But again, from a way of viewing the world and a theory that maybe explains some of how we relate to it and from our happiness perspective, hedonic adaptation theory can be applied in some interesting ways. Now, here's an example that I think maybe you've experienced, right? Imagine, well, I don't know if I need to tell you to imagine, right? You've probably had the experience where you were really excited to get a new phone. You got that new phone, wow, you're pumped, you're so excited. And then, I'd ask you now, pull out that phone. Are you still experiencing those emotions? Are you still as excited as you once were, I'd contend that, if you got your phone relatively recently, probably not, right? You're probably not as excited as you used to be. So let's get into some of the things that you guys said about the Leo Tolstoy story, right? It's a warning against greed. It's a warning that less is more. Don't take on more than you can chew, materialism, right? All of these things are certainly warnings that are being brought up in Leo Tolstoy's story, but in its essence, that's Leo Tolstoy's story is providing an example of hedonic adaptation theory. Now, again, as I mentioned previously, in the common, I guess, popular literature, it's become known as the hedonic treadmill. It's the idea that you are constantly moving the goalpost, just like Bohm did. You've achieved some goals. Maybe it was a raise. Maybe you bought a house you were super, super excited about. Have you adapted to it? I mean, imagine, remember, once upon a time, there was something that you got that you were so excited, so grateful for. And have we gotten to a situation to where we no longer really think about it? We're not stepping back and contemplating what a blessing it is to still have that thing. So we're gonna return to the hedonic treadmill later on in our conversation, talk about ways that we can hopefully counteract the hedonic treadmill. But one of the things that I think is most interesting about research looking to money and happiness is the idea of income and its impact on our overall subjective well-being. So, kind of in essence, does money buy happiness? We've got a quick poll that I think Andrew is going to go ahead and throw up for us. And the question is, do you think more money means more happiness, or does more money mean more problems? Right? So go ahead and put your answers up there real quick. You guys are awesome. I love the engagement. Super quick answers coming in here. And we've got a pretty decent split. Andrew, I imagine that everybody's seeing this in real time like I am, but if not, we'll end the poll here in a moment so that everybody can see it.
We have 64% that have participated, and I think because you're a co-host, you can see the responses. But I
Okay.
do think that this one was an easier one to answer than our initial chat question of what is happiness.
Yep. I've got a bad habit of going straight out with the tough stuff. People are diving in real quick. Andrew, I'd say let's go ahead and open this for. We've got 85% of people enjoying jumping in there. So thank you again for doing that.
No problem.
Most of you are saying, hey, more money equals more happiness. And the research literature, which we're going to take a look at, it's a little bit conflicting here. So Daniel Kahneman, famed economist and researcher, did a research project in 2010, and you've probably heard something about this, where his findings suggest that once you reach about $75,000, your positive emotions. So don't get too confused by the chart over to the right. What you really want to look at is that top line. So positive affect, so positive emotions. What he found in his research is that there's kind of a leveling out that happens at about the $75,000 mark. And I'll quote from his study. He said, "We conclude that lack of money brings both emotional misery and low life evaluation." So in other words, if you look at that positive affect, you can see that on the lower levels of income, which is on the x-axis there, you can see annual income. Income of lower levels is tough. Going back to his quote, though, he says, beyond $75,000 in the contemporary United States, however, higher income is neither the road to experience happiness nor the road to relief of unhappiness or stress, although a higher income continues to improve individuals' life evaluation. So if you can see that dark line kind of in the middle that says ladder next to it, that's life evaluation. And so again, getting back to Cantrill's ladder, where people are describing how satisfied they are with their life, it does appear to continue to increase uh, as income increases. So again, maybe people are, as their income increases in this study, they're saying, okay, I'm ranking my life higher from a satisfaction standpoint, but from a positive emotion standpoint, it doesn't appear to increase. Now,
But
Andrea did something interesting. Andrew, do you want to jump in and talk about the inflation calculation that you did for this?
yeah, I threw the $75,000 that is mentioned in this article into the CPI inflation calculator from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And this particular study was published in 2010. So I compared January 2010 $75,000 threshold and had it calculate to what it would be in March. The equivalent would be in March of that with inflation, and it's about $110,000. So as it's increased, but not exponentially. But that is where you might put your current value of things level out after 110 based on this particular research.
Yep, absolutely. No, thank you for bringing that up. And we might think about this and say, well, maybe it's because people at, 75,000 in 2010 dollars or 110,000 in 2025 dollars, maybe that's because they have enough to cover their needs, but they also have a little bit left over to cover some wants. So, maybe that's the factor. Maybe their financial well-being is impacting their overall positive emotions or something like this. The interesting thing, though, is that, research being what it is, we always have to be careful. We have to be humble with research because what we think we know now, we may find to be disproved in the future. So more modern research produced in 2023 by Killingsworth and actually again with Kahneman here. So you can see that the two authors are Killingsworth and Kahneman. They conducted another study. Now, interestingly enough, what they found, and I'm going to quote from their research. So let me go ahead and read this quote. The quote says, approximately 15 to 20% of people frequently experience negative affect. And the relationship between happiness and income is different in that group and in the happier majority. The suffering of the unhappy group diminishes as income increases up to 100,000, but very little beyond that. This income threshold may represent the point beyond which the miseries that remain are not alleviated by high income. Heartbreak, bereavement, and clinical depression may be examples of such miseries. So if we unpack that statement, right, that's a little bit of a long quote to read you guys. Essentially, what you can see within the charts that are here on our right is that we have happiness thresholds. The 85th percentile being the most happy among us, and the 15th percentile being the least happy among us. And what you can see is, again, with those slopes, the income is on the x-axis still. Look at that 15th percentile range. Uh, Income is having the effect of increasing happiness, but then it starts to flatten out again around that $100,000 range. But it's only for that group as opposed to the other ones. So Killingsworth and Kahneman's most recent research suggests that more money does mean more happiness, except for the least happy among us. Now, again, I do want to emphasize here what I said earlier on. As a researcher, you do have to maintain a certain element of humility. My personal opinion is that you got to be careful about applying generalized findings to your individual circumstances. I certainly do think that higher incomes could result in more happiness, particularly for those who find themselves struggling to make ends meet. Without a doubt, I feel very confident that, if you're having a hard time buying groceries, it's going to be hard to maximize your well-being. But I also wonder if going from, let's say, $150,000 per year in income to $200,000 per year in income is going to have a material impact. Obviously, it does have, it allows you to buy more, but from a happiness standpoint, doesn't move the needle much. I think that there's a lot more research that could be done in this space. But maybe that gets into, making sure that we cover our needs, right? Andrew, why don't you talk to us a little bit about Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
Thank you, Donovan. So we've talked about needs several times in this webinar series, and so this might look familiar to some of you, but if you haven't heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs before now, if you can let us know in the chat, that'd be great. But essentially, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs has this category, this pyramid of categories of needs, including physiological needs like breathing, food, water, shelter, things we typically associate with what we call basic needs. Then there's safety and security, love and belonging, self-esteem, and self-actualization at the very top. And the original theory behind Maslow's hierarchy of needs is that all of these needs are satisfied sequentially. So you can't meet your safety and security needs if your physiological needs aren't met. The income is relevant to the satisfaction of needs, and that needs are associated with overall well-being, not just financial or subjective well-being. And that satisfying needs from the bottom up is the best approach. However, some recent research from Rojas Mendez and Watkins Fassler in 2023 evaluated this really large data set of people in Mexico. And what they found was that all four of those assumptions are were rejected in the data set that they looked at. So what they found is that satisfaction of needs may not be sequential, so it may not be from the top up, that the income is still relevant to meet physiological needs, but not the other needs in the hierarchy. They also found that love and belonging and esteem are really important for an integrated view of human needs. So you can't have physiological needs met without love and belonging needs being met and have a high quality of life, for example. Um, and then many people were rating their level of satisfaction in higher order needs, like the love and belonging needs or self actualization needs, high, while still rating some of their lower needs, lower order needs like the physiological needs, as precarious. So they might be homeless but still feel like they have a really good social support system, and so they have the love and belonging needs rated highly, their satisfaction of those needs rated highly, but not the being able to find food need. So things are complicated, needs are complicated, as we've kind of illustrated so far with some of the research that we've gone over. So I'm going to hand it back over to Donovan to help us walk through this chat.
I think, yeah, forgive me again, guys, but I'm just loving you guys' comments in the chat box. Another question for you. Let's get down to it. If we're thinking about the most important factor for happiness, what do you think it is? If you don't mind dropping that in the chat. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story. This story might kind of reveal the direction that we're going to be heading in. But, some of you might be familiar with this image. Let's go. Oh, here we go. Yes, let's stop here for just a second as people are thinking about that most important thing when it comes to happiness. So again, what do you think is the single most important factor for happiness? Now, the other thing that I'm looking at here is we've got this image, a very famous character from a movie. If you know the movie that we're referring to here, right? This is Castaway. Um, Maybe you haven't seen this movie, or if you have, it's been a long time, but the story goes that Tom Hanks is playing a FedEx executive, and he's on route to Malaysia when unfortunately his plane crashes, and he ends up being the lone survivor and finds himself on this island all by himself, all by his lonesome. And I believe that he's attempting to build a fire at one moment when he's trying to adapt to his new circumstances. And he cuts himself and, in frustration, grabs this volleyball and he throws it. Later, picking up the volleyball, noticing that it looks a little bit like a face. And this volleyball becomes his lone companion, helps him through a lot of difficult times, really helps him survive. Well, what does this show about us as human beings? Well, gosh, we really need social interaction. We really need relationships with people. Now, the research actually bears this out. An amazing longitudinal study by Harvard on adult development has really showcased this. And I'd love to encourage you guys. I think we'll be dropping a clip from a link to the YouTube video in the chat. I'd love for you to take a look at this video in your own time. It's well worth the entire listen. But what his research highlights is that our happiness and well-being, it's not so much about wealth. It's not so much about fame. It's not so much about working ourselves to death, but it's about good relationships. And quoting from his TED Talk, he says, good relationships keep us happier and healthier, period. Now, other research has also borne this out by Gable and Bromberg. They found that, social bonds, our relationships, it's not just about thriving. Social bonds are vital to our survival. Those with stronger relationships have higher life satisfaction, higher well-being, right? The social domain is a better predictor of well-being than career and financial success. Now, I would ask you, now career and financial success, these are extremely important, right? But how much time do you spend thinking about your social values or your social relationships in comparison to maybe the time and effort that you put in your career and financial success? I don't know, maybe this is one of the things that you'll take away from this conversation today, if it is just one thing. Hey, is there a relationship that's kind of been put on the back burner because you've been really focusing on other things? Is it time to go and try to rekindle that relationship or improve that? Right? These are really, really important factors. Other research has also found that, when it comes to where people spend time, the time with other people is the best time. They report it as the best time. Um, there are extreme benefits to social ties, just like exercising and not smoking, right? Those benefits are very, very strong. Even interacting with people like on a bus, those minor, small conversations that you have with the barista when you're getting your coffee, or the polite exchange that you have with someone on the bus. Pro-social interaction, so interacting with other people in a positive and charitable way. All of these things are absolutely vital. All of these things are very, very important. So what we've really come to in this first, let's say, 2/3 of our presentation, our conversation today, are kind of what the research says about happiness, what the research says about money, and the interaction of those things. Well, let's get into ways to increase your happiness. I'd like to walk you through kind of an example of how financial advisors help their clients identify uh, ways to increase happiness, but it really begins at the center of identifying your values. Okay, this is really, really important. So I'd like to tell you a story about the Mexican fisherman. Now, maybe you've heard this story, but even if you have, it's a story worth repeating. So, once upon a time, there was an individual who graduated from business school. After graduating from business school, this gentleman says, "You know what? I'm exhausted. I'm gonna go on a vacation." He decides to go on vacation to a small fishing village. Now as he's at the village, he's smelling the salt in the air, he's looking at the ocean, just loving the sandy beach, and he sees a small fishing boat coming in with a fisherman and his catch. Being kind of a chatty guy, the business school grad goes up and says, "Hey, how long did it take you to catch that fish?" And the fisherman says, "It only took me a few hours." The business school grad replies and says, "Why don't you stay out longer and catch some more?" The fisherman says that he catches enough to support his family and he has a busy life. He rises with the sun, he fishes a little, plays with his daughter, has lunch with his family, sips wine, and plays the guitar in the evening with his wife and friends. From there, the business grad says, "Hey, like, we could put together a plan for expanding your business. What if you just fish a little bit longer? If you do that, you could buy yourself a bigger boat. And, with a bigger boat, it won't be long before you can buy several boats. And then you could buy a whole fleet. And eventually, you're going to be able to get this thing so big that you could open up a cannery and you could enjoy cutting out the middleman and controlling this entire process." And the fisherman replies and says, "Well, if I did that, what would I do then?" The business grad says, "Well, look, after you do that, you can relocate to the capital and then eventually to New York, where you can continue expanding your business empire." The fisherman looks at him and says, "Okay, well, how long would that take?" And the business school grad says, "It'll probably take 10 to 15 years." And the fisherman asks, "Well, what then?" The business grad says, "Well, after you do that, you could announce an initial public offering and you could go public. And at that point, you would be very, very rich." And then the fisherman replies and says, "Well, then what? What would I do once I become so rich?" And the business school grad says, "Well, that's the best part because you could then do whatever you like. You could retire, you could move to a small coastal village where you would rise with the sun, fish a little, play with your daughter, have lunch with your family, sip wine, and play the guitar in the evening with your wife and your friends." And of course, guys, as you're listening to this story, we've come full circle, haven't we? The fisherman, in fact, is living his values. He's living his very best life right now, and he doesn't have to build a massive enterprise or empire in order to do that. And why is this also important? Well, understanding our values and what we care about, that's going to drive our decision making. Now, let me step back and say, there's nothing inherently wrong with someone starting an amazing business and dedicating their life to doing that, right? Nothing wrong with it. But is it what we really want? I think that sometimes, because life is busy and we have cultural pressures that maybe encourage us to really focus on fame, money, and power, sometimes we forget, what is it that we really most care about? So what I'd like to walk you through here are a few questions. These are called the Kinder questions. And financial advisors use this technique to help people really recenter in their values. And once they've identified the values of the client, then from that standpoint, they can put together a plan that's going to reconnect with those values. Now, let me preface this by saying uh, the questions that I will ask can sometimes feel a little bit scary because they do deal with our own mortality. And I'll share an experience with you guys here. So a number of years ago, I was at a trampoline park. It was a family reunion trampoline park, and in the process of being at this trampoline park, I got a very small scrape on my elbow. Well, it turned out that this scrape got infected and I got really, really sick. So sick that my wife had to take me to the emergency room and I ended up being in the hospital for about 6 days. Now, this was a really, really scary experience for me because it took a few different rounds of antibiotics, trying different antibiotics before I started to get better. And the thought crossed my mind while I was in the hospital, am I going to get out of here? And probably others on this call have had the experience where they wondered, okay, is my time up? When you have an experience like that, it becomes very clear where you should put your priorities and also where you've been spending way too much time not focusing on things that you really, really care about. So let me ask you 3 questions. I'm going to begin with this first question. Here's what I would encourage you to do. We don't have as much time as we maybe would like to go through each of these. But what I'd encourage you to do is at least take out a piece of paper or maybe pull up a Word document and you can start putting some initial ideas. So here's my first question. If you were financially secure, you had all the money that you needed, how would you live your life? Is there anything that you would change? Is there anything that you would do different? What things would you do to live your life again if there were no financial constraints? Again, as I mentioned, unfortunately, due to time, we won't be able to give you as much time as I would normally like to give you. But of course, this is being recorded, so you'll be able to go back and if you want to listen to this again. But again, just jot the first few things that come to your mind. If you were financially secure, how would you live your life? Would things be any different? Would there be certain things that you'd like to keep the same and not really make any changes to? Now I want to change the scenario just a little bit. So go ahead and put a line or, hit return so you've got some space between that answer and the last one. But now imagine you go to your doctor and now your doctor shocks you with the news that you have a condition and you are expected to pass away in 5 to 10 years. Now, here's the thing about this condition, though. You're not going to feel sick at all, but you're also not going to know when you are going to pass away. There will be really no evidence within that 5 to 10 year period that you're going to pass away. You just, some one day in between that time frame, you're going to pass away. So the question is, now that we've shortened this time horizon for you, what are you going to do with the time that you have left to live? Right? You see the future, you know that something's going to happen, but now we're not thinking in the terms of decades. We're thinking in terms of just maybe 1 decade, maybe half a decade. Okay, are you going to change your life? If so, how are you going to do that? What are the other changes that you would like to make because of this shortened time horizon? Now go ahead and again, hopefully you've got an idea or two, but draw a line under it or drop down, hit return a couple times. Now imagine that you have 1 day left to live. So ask yourself, as you imagine kind of looking forward, there's only 24 hours left. Is there anything that is there an emotion of regret that comes to the surface? Do you feel like there's something that you missed or something you didn't get to try or didn't get to be? Is there something about yourself that you weren't able to explore? Is there anything else? Now, again, in practice, the reality is that whether working with a client or going through this exercise with my students, I usually give them about 5 minutes per each section. But we are doing our best to be respectful of your guys' time. But I would encourage you, after this presentation, spend a little bit more time here thinking about this. You know, the why do we do this? Why do we do this in the first place? Again, getting back to this idea that our values drive our behavior. Maybe you haven't taken the opportunity in the past to write down what you most value, but if you participate in this experience, you can probably identify. And Andrew, why don't we just pull up on the screen some of these ideas about things that uh, maybe resonated with you? And I think we were going to attempt to do some sort of interaction here, but I think for just time constraints, I think we'll just throw these up here and think about what you wrote down. Did you identify with something like this? Did family come up as something that was important? Did service, being involved with your community, are those values? So again, the reason why we bring all of these things up is because your values should be aligned with what you do. But because of the hustle and bustle and because we're easily distracted, sometimes we lose sight of those values that are oh so important. So we want to round out our presentation with you today, talking about a few ways that you can use money in order to potentially increase your overall happiness. Now, there's a wonderful research paper by Dunn and colleagues called, and it's a beautiful title. If check it out. If money doesn't make you happy, then you probably aren't spending it right, right? What a great title for a research piece. What they found is that improved happiness can be achieved by buying experiences and not things. We may pursue and seek after material possessions regularly, but it's actually experience. And this gets back to Arthur Brooks's theory on happiness, right? Part of happiness is enjoyment, which is having experiences with people that we love, right? Spending money on others. So giving could be charitably inclined, it could be spending time on others. And also buying small pleasures frequently as opposed to buying just a few really, really big ones. Now, at the beginning of our conversation, I presented you with hedonic adaptation theory. You guys are going to go out into the world, and now you know what hedonic adaptation theory is. And you can look to yourself as you're going throughout your day-to-day life and consider, wow, are there ways in which I'm adapting here? Now, here's a bit of a trick for how to deal with hedonic adaptation. Now, again, just revisiting why hedonic adaptation happens. Think of it from the standpoint of going to a restaurant. All right, imagine there's a really nice restaurant that you like to go to. And because, let's say, you have the means, you start going to that restaurant all the time. You're going there all the time. What's going to happen because of hedonic adaptation, because you go there frequently, it's going to just kind of lose the appeal that it once had. And also, you're going to raise your expectations. If it is, let's say it's a high quality fancy restaurant, you're going to raise your baseline expectations. And so maybe going to a more casual setting, maybe it's not going to give you the same enjoyment that you otherwise could have had. So how do we deal with this? Again, if hedonic adaptation is something that's going to play a role in our lives, well, what can we do? There are two ideas, and this comes from a research paper that I think we're going to drop in the chat here as well. Two ways to slow hedonic adaptation. The first way is through variety. So what can we, it's not just about going to the same fancy restaurant over and over and over again, but getting a diversity of experiences. Additionally, we can't forget the age-old wonderful grandma wisdom to appreciate and be grateful for what you have. So taking a moment to savor the experience. Have you gone on a walk recently and looked around and thought, my goodness, this is a beautiful place to be this time of year, right? It's a little bit rainy where I'm at today, but you know what? It is so beautiful, so lovely to see the trees leafing out and to see the flowers in bloom. It's just wonderful. Thank you guys for hanging with us here. We have just a few more ideas to share with you before we wrap up. Being thrifty, what an important idea. Now, this is something that's been an idea throughout the ages, from Socrates to Buddhism, and King Solomon and Confucius in between. People have been thinking and pondering about the importance of being frugal. And even more recently in our modern era with Ben Franklin. Let's jump forward a little bit, Andrew, and talk about Ben Franklin, right? He said, if you would be wealthy, think of saving as much as getting. And Warren Buffett, he's lived an interesting life too. Warren Buffett. Now this statement is from 2011, so it's a little bit older. Um, After becoming the world's third wealthiest person, he still lived in the same house that he bought in 1958 for $31,000. Right? I mean, imagine that being able to buy a house for $31,000. And as late as 2006, only drew a salary of $100,000. Now, Warren Buffett's still around, getting up there in age. I don't know if this still holds the same, but my goodness, imagine being the third richest man and maintaining that kind of lifestyle. Some other ideas around optimizing frugal behaviors, right? Getting out of debt, prioritizing paying down debt before buying new things, right? This can improve your overall well-being. Again, focusing on the importance of appreciation and gratitude, counting your blessings. All of these things can really help us from a standpoint for optimizing happiness. And the last idea that we'll share with you is, the value of renting. Maybe there's been a time in your life where you sat back and you're like, my goodness, wouldn't it be so nice to have that vacation home in Wisconsin or Minnesota or Colorado or whatnot? Renting's not so bad. In fact, with renting, you can avoid the significant expenses, of course, it requires to buy a vacation home and maintain that vacation home. Airbnb is not so bad. You get to have that great experience, but also you can kind of go wherever you want, right? Renting in certain situations instead of buying can make a lot of sense. The last thing here, if you're going to spend money, spend it on things that you care about, those intrinsic goals. So if you look to yourself and you saw values, when we did that value exercise, if there were values that really stuck out to you, well, maybe you can spend money on some of those things. Maybe it means learning new skills. Maybe it means that you're spending time with others, getting an experience with them, donating your time, going on trips, investing in yourself through education. All of these things can be really, really beneficial. Well, let's close here. Wow, Andrew, we made it. My goodness. And thank you all for hanging in here with us. We're here at our final thoughts with some happiness math and some wisdom from Lao Tzu. So let's end with Arthur Brooks's satisfaction math. So in Arthur Brooks's book, From Strength to Strength, he suggests that satisfaction is what you have divided by what you want. In other words, there's a few ways to increase your satisfaction. One thing you can do is try to get more stuff. So increase what you have. The problem here is that oftentimes when we increase what we have, our wants also increase. So Arthur Brooks suggests, and I would also submit to this as well as a good idea, it's a much more manageable method to manage what you want, and maybe even some ways reduce what you want as a means of increasing your overall satisfaction. And last but not least, from my end, some wisdom by Lao Tzu in the Tao Te Ching, saying, "Those who know they have enough are truly wealthy." Now, again, guys, thank you so much for being with us. Andrew's going to be going over some key takeaways, but I really do hope that in our conversation, there were at least one, two, maybe three things that you can leave with today, actionable items that you can take into your life to improve your happiness, your well-being. I was talking with our friends before our presentation today, noting that money is a puzzle, happiness is a puzzle. Both of these things are worthy of puzzling over and thinking about. Hopefully, we've helped you unpack the puzzle just a little bit. So with that, Andrea, I'll turn the time over to you to take us home.
Thank you, Donovan. And we're really blessed to have Donovan walk us through in a very intentional way this puzzle of happiness and money and the relationship between them. So, just to wrap things up, we want to emphasize that happiness is really hard to define, but involves a combinations of enjoyment, satisfaction, and meaning. That's why Cantrell's ladder was something that we discussed as a scale that's used when talking about subjective well-being or happiness or life satisfaction. Research is a little bit mixed on the impact of increasing income levels on happiness. Remember that $75,000 quote you might have heard? With inflation is more like 110,000 now, but it's still kind of seeing diminishing impacts after that threshold. Good relationships are extremely important, as we kind of emphasized here at the end, and our values really do drive our behavior. So when we intentionally connect our values with our efforts and our time, then we're more likely to maximize our happiness. And we can spend strategically in order to do that. So things like focusing on relationships or pro-social experiences can really help us maximize happiness. And again, that satisfaction math by Arthur Brooks is to improve satisfaction, you can manage your wants. All right, so this is our last webinar in the Get Savvy Grow Your Green Stuff webinar series. So if you can take our post-webinar survey, it will help us plan for next year. We can also watch all of our previous webinars on YouTube. We have all of them up through the stress and money one that we recorded in April up there. We will get this one up there probably in the next couple weeks. We have to edit the captions for accessibility. And I want to thank all of Get Scabby's series collaborators. There's lots of us. Some of us are in the chat. Some of us have had to move on for today. We will stick around for a few questions, but feel free to leave if you have to. We know we went over again today, but this was a puzzling topic to cover. So I will double check to see if we got any Q&A questions. And Donovan, did you get any private questions? Sometimes I get private questions when I'm presenting.
I'll peruse through the chat real quick and see if any came through.
All right, it looks like we don't have any Q&As. But if you think of a question later, you can always email studentmoney@uillinois.edu and we can try to get an answer to your question. We also have a couple podcasts that Donovan has been a guest on, so I'll include that in the follow-up email that we send out with this recording once it is all up on YouTube. All right, Richard or Kobena, was there any questions that you got privately? We got a compliment in the Q&A that they thought that this webinar was their favorite out of all the ones that they've attended. So it was a great
All
way to end the
right.
semester.
I'm honored. Thank you so much.
I've been really hyping this one up to anyone I talk about.
Well, it's a lot of fun, and I'm always happy to have these conversations, Andrea and team. I really appreciate the chance to join with our friends today, and certainly would welcome any future opportunities.
All right. Thank you so much, Donovan. Thank you to those of you that have joined us. Again, if you think of questions later, you can email us at studentmoney@uillinois.edu. Thank you so much and have a great afternoon.